Sometimes kiddie-ish looking characters are the characters that get underestimated, and don't let their looks deceive you, because they will surprise you with their might and weird abilities that can counter your abilities. Kirby is such a being. He's a character that's technically only 8 inches tall, but even they say on the Nintendo website of Kirby talking about the lore of him to not underestimate this little pink hero on this planet Popstar. He has an elastic body, which is why they probably placed him against beings like Majin Buu in Death Battle, because of his elastic type nature, being stretchy and all that good stuff. When they say he's elastic, he's definitely elastic. His main ability that makes him very similar to Majin Buu is the fact that he can absorb enemies, aka eating stuff to gain more power. Give you an idea of the different entities that exist in his verse. Sometimes they call Kirby the Pink Demon on occasions like this. But how strong are we talking when it comes to Kirby? A good way to understand how strong he is understand his physiology, like how he can do weird stuff like floating just by inhaling. He can stretch over big items. Large stuff he can inhale in himself, even if it's a large amount at that, like all of this, because that's why he can suck up energy weapon. You actually have to be careful about the blast you use against him, because he might be able to inhale it. It's not just a game mechanic thing, because his suction is so powerful he can suck in even a giant car. Well, not a giant car, but just a car, to turn into basically a car himself, or pretty much be the outer shell of a car. I guess one can argue this stuff can be considered strength and durability because his body can withstand this type of stuff. Heck, his suction is that strong to suck in vehicles. The bigger the object he eats, the bigger the projectiles he blasts at you. Spitting back projectiles is definitely a part of his lore. Spitting this being back. Kirby is one of those characters that kind of reminds me of Rogue or other characters in Marvel and DC that can change their tier based on the power they absorb, which is actually a big reason on why in this video you're probably going to see him having a lot of different forms or outfits. That's because whatever he absorbs, he gets that power and kind of looks similar to him. Yes, it really does remind you of what Super Buu did in Dragon Ball Z, to where when he did absorb Gohan, he actually got similar clothing after he absorbed him. You know, that's a similar theme. You know what I mean? Like, he can have them stored, then he can just turn them on and off and switch to them in the middle of a fight. The abilities he absorbs, that is. One of the main reasons why he can eat stuff is because this is how his stomach or dimension looks. It's like a bottomless pit dimension type of thing, which is why he can store and eat stuff, and it gets stored in here. When he eats stuff, this is how it looks when it goes inside of himself. And if he wants to let it out, this is how it looks from the inside of him letting things out. He can pull it. It's said that Kirby has a bottomless pit of a tummy, which is why he's able to suck up stuff this good. It's a common theme for them to say this about his tummy. It's easy to think of Kirby as a character, oh, he's not that strong. He's just a person that steals people's powers. That's why he's strong. Oh, he's just a power-stealing cheater like Super Buu. He can't have his own power. But you know the weird part is? He does steal people's abilities, but his body itself actually makes certain things better because of his own innate, like, raw powers in general. Like, they even talk about how he, quote-unquote, has infinite power. Think of it like this. This being known as Moro is one of those characters that can absorb powers and life force, but when he actually got the power of an angel within inside of him, he did get powered up, but his body was actually starting to overflow with too much power. The amount of raw power Kirby can absorb seems to be technically limitless, which is what makes him such a threat, even though he does kind of cheat by stealing abilities and copying them. It's his infinite power that allows him to do it without putting too much stress on himself, I'm assuming, right? Something like that, you know what I mean? He has other versatile abilities that makes him tricky to fight, like making more than one of himself, clone, duplicate, shadow clone jutsu type stuff. Technically, from all the different things he's absorbed, he's definitely very versatile in a lot of different aspects when it comes to elements or fighting ability or skill. What versatile being can't use fire? So it makes sense that he had a fire form, a ghost form, depending on what he eats. He used hammers, can put fire around that hammer, or make the hammer ginormous. Just like fire, he can use the element of ice. You see how his outfit looks? There's been times where he's had to use bombs, of course. He's had omnidirectional attacks that messed up everything in the area or on screen. Yeah, bubble type of attacks. He got psychic energy type stuff, psionic stuff. Teleport certain distances. He has this fighter type of mode he can go into where it kind of makes him like Ryu from Street Fighter, like Hadouken. And then he has a ninja mode that can do ninja art type stuff like Flame Nimpo, can strike you too fast for you to do anything. Throwing kunai mode because of ninja. He has spark electricity modes to where he uses swords or blades in combat. Basically makes a laser sword in this situation to use as melee combat. Drill mode to shoot drills at you. They even talk about his martial arts might, being recognized as a veteran. He's got an animal mode that lets him dig through the planet. Archer mode that lets him use bow and arrows. can become a painter and the paint hurts the enemies. They come alive and hurt them. Energy blast or wine type of stuff, like a beetle mode, a bell mode to be used like a shield to protect himself. A cleaning Kirby. Bro got the chef's pot where you go in there, you'll get cooked, literally. Oh my goodness, Chef Kirby. A Cupid form of Kirby allows for flight and using arrows. A Dr. Kirby that literally throws pills at you. Oh my goodness. Firework Kirby that allows him to do firework type of attacks. Turns into an actual bow and arrow to shoot bow and arrows that's flaming. Can make giant claws, shape shifting. He got this hypernova mode where he looks like basically a Super Saiyan when he ate this miracle fruit to get this golden looking form. In this state, he can actually inhale way bigger things than he usually would be able to. Big BS like train like stuff, like that's crazy. But then Kirby got his own flying Nimbus cloud, which is basically his vehicle he rides on. What's his physicals looking like when it comes to Kirby though? It's little cases like this you can get an idea of their power, how they strike stones. Even if he's not using abilities, just straight up kicks in his normal base state. The same goes with Metal. Even if they're big barriers in base state, he's still this strong. Same when it comes to shattering crates, shattering ice. Since his main ability is copying, don't be surprised if you see a lot of different outfits of him using different type of abilities throughout this video, but don't get that twisted. He's still strong in his base state, base form, looking like this. I mean, when it comes to battle experience, he's had a lot of different fights where we've sent beings way off, sometimes sending beings very far into the distance after their strike. For example, Get Back You Giant Lion when he's powered up, and it goes flying. For example, big mechs like this, he can break apart their claws with his strikes. It doesn't seem to matter your size. During this minigame, his punching power is implied to be able to punch through a big chunk of the planet itself, like big deepness. It's implied with certain forms like the Megaton punch that he can apparently punch with 200 megatons, implying to affect the entire planet of Popstar. But even if you don't want to take this visual seriously of him being able to crack the planet in half or nothing, it's literally stated Megaton Punch Championship. Remember that the largest nuclear bomb in real life is 50 megatons, and he's apparently 200 plus megatons as a bare minimum. So in his fighter mode, he can technically, off gate, hit 4 times harder than the largest nuclear bombs in real life if we were to take that seriously, right? That's crazy off gate. And in his fighter state, he can put energy around his hits like on some Street Fighter type stuff or Iron Fist type stuff. If we were to take this feat a little bit more seriously and not just go by the numbers, but we go by the visuals of how we saw the planet kind of get cracked in half like this in the minigame, and if we assume the planet is similar to Earth when it comes to pure size, Kirby being able to do punches like this during this punching contest where, yeah, they clearly punch ridiculously hard in the Megatons, but visuals imply even harder than Megatons, implying to be able to crack Popstar right down the middle of this planet. That would pretty much prove that beings like Kirby can level multiple continents, and destroying an entire country with one hit is nothing. And you telling me Kirby can delete all of this or split all of this down the middle with one punch? That's like saying with a single hit, Kirby can cause extinction level events, destructive type capacity with either a punch or a kick. In his fighter mode, Kirby pretty much proving he could punch apart a planet. This superpower punch was even brought back up via translation that in the lore, he can technically crack the planet with his punching power. You got to keep in mind the overpowered entities that Kirby has to compete against to let you get a true scope on how strong he is and how strong are the beings he has to fight against all the time. I mean, we're talking about beings that can produce so much raw power they can destroy big chunks of the moon. So Kirby with different power-ups or power sources or absorbing certain things can compete against beings like this, like for example in this occasion using the Star Rod, messing up this entity known as Nightmare that did all of this as collateral. So there's already implications that these Kirby level beings can produce moon-ish or the power needed to slice half the moon apart. I mean, we saw a big chunk of it get blown apart. Like I said, his power does change depending on what he absorbs at the time with weapons, like moon destructive type of ability type of stuff. Kirby has slugfested with beings like Galacta Knight, for example, somebody that's very powerful as well. These beings that Kirby has to face, they talk about destroying a nearby planet or two, collateral damage of their battles. It's implied he's this strong just naturally, or his body wouldn't be able to withstand certain things, like big explosions that are like dang near multi-continental. Kirby be unharmed from stuff like this. Something that's a planet-sized mechanism apparently had like a ridiculously large explosion that Kirby was in the middle of. And if the size of this place is really as big as Earth, you can get somewhat of an idea of how this would compare if this explosion happened on Earth. That's like some continental type of planet-ish explosive type of stuff Kirby had to withstand. Yes, I know the planets in this Kirby universe look weird, but right here in this particular occasion, you can actually get a visual on how it looks, like how big the explosion was. That Kirby, hey, there he is. He just flew out of it like it wasn't nothing. Well, we just gonna ignore that big explosion that he just ate. He actually fought this entity known as Marx, sent him like this, hard enough to make the whole planet itself explode, planet-sized structure itself explode from impact of how hard they hit each other. So with all his different powers and stuff to put together, Kirby can hit hard enough to where he can hit beings that hard away to make an entire planet-sized structure explode. His copy ability is broken to get the kind of strength to be able to slice apart planets or to destroy planet-sized structures on a whim as collateral, you know. Meteors that can actually destroy planets, Kirby can play baseball with and hit them backwards with his striking power. Are you serious? It's literally visually shown on screen that the meteors that he hit destroy actual planets or planetoids. And they go for light years. This has to be way past planet-shattering levels of raw power output, right? Mini games, gaggy, it's Kirby. Just run with it, even if it's gaggy and it's a mini game. Yes, this dude can redirect planet-busting meteors. Yeah, take this as you will. Like, depending on the difficulty, it was meteors, he could destroy the town, destroy the country, or destroy the world, you know. So yeah, he can destroy planets. I mean, his ability to destroy stuff based on his abilities he gets is impressive, but it just seems like his overall just raw strength, no matter what he eats or absorbs, he's just always going to be in them way past planet-shattering levels or even star-shattering ranges. You know what I mean? When they was fighting this being right here, Kirby literally had to withstand a black hole pulling everything within vicinity, and Kirby was able to withstand and stuff like this. Depending on the black holes can wipe out multiple planets like nothing and stuff of that such, just to give you some perspective. When we dive deeper into this black hole stuff, when this stuff is translated, this being is talking about his potential raw power output of his black holes beyond his limit. Talking about he can be able to possibly suck in different things from different dimensions, which would kind of make Kirby seem more impressive that this is stronger than your typical black hole, one could argue, because he had to resist this. You know how some characters in fiction are strong as heck, but on top of those beings they would get like a MacGuffin, aka a powerful item that makes them a bigger threat than usual. Kirby and crew had to do adventures like this to where certain beings would get powered up more than ever, get new forms and all of that. This is the type of stuff Kirby and crew have to face against working together. Powerful entities like this. Beings you can clearly see wearing the crown after the defeat of it and going back to normal, of course, after Kirby and them took care of it. It's a visual image of them working together, taking it on. And a good way to understand the might of these beings that Kirby and them have to face is to look at everything around them after they beat it, along with the crown and stuff. Seeing it explode. You can see how everything around them in this dimension is cracking as collateral of them just straight up winning. Everything is getting affected. Yeah, all this cracked. On top of that type of stuff that Kirby had to face against, the Master Crown is literally stated to have limitless power. This gives more narrative and writer intent how powerful this entity was when Kirby and them were fighting them. But Kirby and company have to be facing against beings that supposedly have quote-unquote limitless power. They did work together, but yet they're punching a being that apparently quote-unquote had limitless power, which could mean his punches could have actual infinite universe levels of power. What do you think? Do you think this confirms Kirby has universal type power or universe-shattering power? I wouldn't doubt it. He's gaggy. If that's not enough for you, one can argue and say some of the best gear Kirby and crew come up with is like the power of friendship when they use their power to work together to make some overpowered stuff like this Stars Ally Sparkler, for example. So one could say this is a team effort, but Kirby definitely contributed his part because the kind of blast power it has is mighty. You can see in occasions with this boss, for example, the Void Termina. This thing can overpower the Void with beams. Even when this Void entity tries to make a bigger beam, Kirby's device makes it an even bigger one. Oh, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Let me explain real quick why fighting this entity, for example, that has these different modes. First form, right here, for example, is impressive. This being known as Termina in these different forms, or one could say modes, overpowering its beams or beam struggles with it. Thanks to teamwork and working together, they make a device working together, having a beam struggle with an entity that has crazy amounts of raw energy within them, because when they actually got the W over said entity in its mightiest state, right here in this particular occasion, the explosion radius was super wide enough to the point where it encompassed, if we go by this angle, like it encompassed at least a couple galaxies, because when you see the explosion actually happen, it's just gigantic. You see Kirby and them fly away from this after it happened, after this defeat, letting you know how powerful that entity was. It's moments like this where in this state, it's implications that they could produce galaxy destructive type of ability, like literally deleting a galaxy if they had to. It's implications of that. Since Kirby did contribute in making this device, in-game type of weapon, and it has crazy blast power. And this is how the crew, or Kirby, actually got the victory on beings this mighty. On top of the beam struggle, They basically do the ultimate power of friendship moment, and Kirby summons projections of his pals and pen pals to launch an Omega assault to finally take out this entity once and for all. And that's when the big giant galactic explosion happened. You know what I mean? Well, even if you want to say he can't produce galactic levels of power on his own, well, think about it. He's at least 1/3 of the power needed to defeat a being that had the energy to produce an explosion that was galaxies wide. You know what I mean? At the very least, even if you don't believe they're galaxy busters, they literally state in their title, Destroyer of Worlds, and we've seen Kirby do similar stuff to that without these ridiculous power-ups, so at the very least can definitely destroy multiple planets, right? These are the entities he's fighting, Void Termina. It just adds up perfectly with the lore, clear narrative, and writer intent. The stuff that Kirby has to fight, the true destroyer of worlds, you see? Clear writer intent. When it comes to related to speed, there's implications he can move faster than the eye can see on these little mini game fun type of things. Could be a game mechanic, but it's implied. Like you already know, we've seen him use different melee weapons throughout this video and stuff of that such. And fighting speed, you can see him clash with other beings like him. Like there's weird moments in gambling mechanics, like against this ridiculously powerful being, you see time kind of slow down. Could be a game mechanic though. He has this gear known as the Warp Star he's been shown to be able to create himself, that he can use to fly or ride on, can just summon it and call it in when needed. This Warp Star that he can summon, that he can ride on, has ridiculous speed to where jumping from planet to planet is not really no challenge really. Somebody would definitely try to argue cinematic time, but look how fast they're implying this Warp Star can move, like literally jumping inside of a galaxy instantaneously. You can see occasions like this when it comes to speed, flying past stars. When it comes to its raw speed, there's ridiculous implications of massively faster than the speeds of light's implications when it comes to this warp star. Flying through space. I mean, space is a wide place. Why would they use something ridiculously slow if they're flying through space? You know what I mean? The warp star itself can fly from the planet Pop Star itself all the way to the moon in no time. And Kirby, thanks to this warp star-like thing, can travel from galaxy to galaxy like it ain't no big deal. And he's not doing it in no weak time spans either. The thing about it is that you're probably thinking, man, this doesn't mean Kirby has fighting speed just because he can fly on something this fast. Kirby is literally fast enough to play baseball with meteors like a joke. Meteors that come at him with ridiculous speeds and can hit him that far away instantaneously. And apparently hits it light years away. Like, hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. Do you respect Kirby? Did you know Kirby was this overpowered? Did you know he fights beings that make explosions that swallow up multiple galaxies? You probably didn't. He can literally do some baseball pitch stuff and hit meteors that destroy planets back into space, and they go back faster than the speed of light, reacting to stuff moving light years, and he can just react to it like a baseball bat, like casual gaggy stuff. You know what I mean? I mean, what are you supposed to do against a being that can eat some BS, pull out a random bomb, and just blow the earth in half? Or just punch the earth in half. You know what I mean? He's the type of character where you can throw something at him, he can eat it, and then he gets the power of the thing that you threw at him. So it's like, what are you supposed to do? I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.